Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Welcome to Performance in Motion with your host, Dr. Dennis.
Welcome back, folks. We have an awesome guest here today, Mr. Felix Taverna. And I just want to share something with you, Felix, from our last segment. A really quick story, coach to coach. I had the opportunity of being the hockey director back east, and we had 120 kids in our program. And one of the awesome things was that one of our travel teams, I set a precedence where, I dressed in a suit and tie every day. So what do you think the kids and the parents did? They followed through. And one of the big things that I shared was that everyone had to have respect for each other. And there was an incident one day where one kid was making fun of another. So I actually kicked the coaches, the dads, off of the ice. I had everyone take a knee. And I said one thing, and I actually took this from Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington. And I said, you know what? You may not like each other, but you will respect each other. And from that day forward, I have to tell you that these children, like you said earlier, they blossomed, but they got that teamwork. It was much more than just winning games. And by the way, we won 80% of the games. Did you ever experience anything like that, Coach?
Without a doubt, and that's where we have gotten so far removed from. Now, with this kneeling of the national anthem in the NFL, has trickled down to Pop Warner, where Pop Warner teams are doing that. See, these young boys and girls, because girls are playing a lot of sports too, and sure. You know, with the Gender Equity Act of allowing a certain number of scholarships for college that's allocated for men and boys, well, the same has to be for young ladies as well. So I think they emulate the professional athletes, and when they see the professional athletes do what they do and showcase their disgusting behaviors on the field, well, if they're not reprimanded and they're not penalized for it, then these young boys and girls feel the same way, that they're able to do the same thing and get away with it. And respect, I believe, has what we have come from and have been moved so way off the core of, to having sportsmanship. One of the ideas and one of my thoughts, and we were talking about this, was of having sportsmanship. Where has sportsmanship gone? When, teams go to center field for the coin flip and one team extends the handshake and the other team just looks at them and doesn't acknowledge that. Well, we need to address this, because we need to stop it, because these kids, they're not corrupt yet, and they have the ability to grow the right way. And I see some of this in talking with Jeff again about some of these club teams, that these coaches are at fault, because these coaches are being paid and they're given the great responsibility of coaching our children, and they have ulterior motives, which we have seen over the last 6 or 7 months with this college recruiting scandal that's hitting the NCAA. Players are at a great demand right now, and talent is a great demand, and it's unfortunate that we have gotten so low in the bunkers, and being able to not address it properly and give these kids, the right and the wrong way, and being able to instill discipline in them.
Absolutely. And as much as sports is physical, the mental aspect is what creates champions and longevity. Now, getting to the longevity part, we both have been exposed to the growing incidents of, unfortunately, yes, players are faster, stronger, more talent, but they're also getting hurt more. So we're going to do a little switch here, folks. I'm going to have the opportunity of being interviewed by Felix.
So, Dr. Dennis, what do you think is attributed to these injuries? And, we have seen we have seen a lot of ACL, MCL. We have seen a lot of high sprains. We have seen a lot of injuries, and it's very, very difficult to comprehend. We have seen another escalade of concussions, which, I was sharing with you that I was on to this prior to the movie Concussion,
yes.
And I was on to it through a friend of mine who asked me to view the League of Denial, how the NFL covered up the concussion syndrome. And I think we have a major problem now. Of all the brains from the deceased athletes that have been examined, all but one has CTE. What do you attribute that to?
Well, there's many factors here, and we can cover it in a few other shows. But to keep it simply, everything starts with how we move, and that starts in the brain, ironically, but that's actually the connection there. So if we're moving dysfunctionally and we don't know we're dysfunctional, the probability of these types of injuries then increases significantly. So the problem is that it starts with imbalances on how we move. So let's just say hockey player, football player, very strong quadriceps, hamstrings, but there may be a weak link at the ankle or the calf muscle. And then if we look at the core, certain aspects of the core may be strong.
So paint a picture for me, if you would, Dr.
Sure.
Dennis, in regard to the brain. The brain is just lying there in some solution, and it moves very frequently. It moves very diligently, or how does it move?
Actually, you pretty much described it. We could almost picture, a little sailboat in the water, and sometimes the water is calm, but in these contact sports, the water is very rough. So that boat will be smashed against the side of the brain. The brain will be smashed against the cranium. And over time, just like boxers, look at Muhammad Ali. All of this has been there for years. It's just coming to fruition now. But if we took 100 boxers that were champion, what percentage of them are having very similar CTE symptoms?
Well, there's a large percentage of them, and I would like to go deep into the Pop Warner segment of youth football because watching the League of Denial, the doctor, who was just an incredible expert on examining and doing the autopsies on these brains, also mentioned that the smaller the brain, the more movement that the brain has.
Yes, and quite frankly, if it's smaller, it weighs less. So with impact, with movement in different directions as players are running forwards, backwards, sideways, and then on impact, and not just football, right? Football, hockey, basketball, even soccer players, the incidence is starting to go up in concussions now in soccer players.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but not to the degree of football. So
no.
What happens when the brain continuously gets belted with a helmet-to-helmet hit? How much can that brain stand of being lodged perfectly inside the skull, or when does it become too much?
Well, that's a great question. I did read a few articles about a week ago, and the number was in the very low, thousands, which in a football game, how many times are these kids hitting head-to-head? We're several hundred, and in the pros, it's several thousand per game. Isn't that right?
Without a doubt, and
Yeah.
it's a lot. So, like somebody asked me the other day, well, then, how would you rectify it? How would you change it? And I gave it some deep thought for a while. I was trying to think, because the NFL is facing what I believe is $1 billion lawsuit. They have come to $747 million for the number of players that have signed up for the case itself. And I'm trying to think right now, like, there has to be at least another couple thousand players that are sitting here as we're speaking on the radio that are having some memory loss.
Absolutely. And you know what, when you asked me earlier, what contributes to a lot of this, unfortunately, actually goes back to what we were speaking about earlier. The lack of respect actually is a variable in this, because then you have the dirty hits, right? In football, in hockey, which I feel that these players need to be reprimanded on a higher level. In hockey, I was watching some YouTubes of Washington and some of the other teams out there, and these blindsided hits, whether it's hockey, football, whatever sport it is, this is a big contributor to concussions.
I agree with you. And, what do you do? I mean, how do you prevent this from happening? Do you go back to a certain kind of helmet, or do you make it a flag football league?
Well, I would say no, probably to both. The other component that's important is for these players that are doing blatant dirty hits. Obviously, at the pro level, they need to be fined a tremendous amount of money. But if these guys truly love playing, they need to be exempt from being in certain games. And I feel down the road, if you're a college player that is truly passionate about what you're doing and you can't play, and that's what you love, I think that impact over time may contribute to less of these.
Well, they have a major, major problem on the horizon, because the class action lawsuits are just filing in, and there seems to be no answer on how we can prevent this type of injury. We're seeing the lack of memory on some of these players, and it's getting worse by the day.
Yep. This is Dr. Dennis, and
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
Life is full of misadventures, from car crashes to home fires to getting choked out on the mat. Yes, I said getting choked out, because I'm Carlos Kramer, jiu-jitsu competitor, MMA and media personality, and mild-mannered insurance agent. You can follow my adventures on Kick-Ass Radio, and I can protect you from life's misadventures at Kramer Insurance. Home, auto, life, business, and workers' comp. We're at KramerINS.com, and I want you to join my world.
You've heard me bragging about Progressive Medical Center and how they've helped me feel so much healthier. But one thing, Dr. Agoli, that a lot of people come to you with is just unexplained pain. They just can't get any relief. Why can Progressive Medical Center's Pain Management Center help them?
First of all, we have to acknowledge that pain is for real, and you've got acute pain and chronic pain. Here's the problem. That acute pain turns to chronic, which is long-standing, and no one's getting to the root cause. There's several key diagnostic components that help us get to the root of what's causing this pain. Is it inflammation? Once we do a thorough evaluation to get to the root cause, determine if it's structural or if it's a metabolic issue. And this way, we put an individualized program for pain management involving correcting the spine, using certain injections when necessary, and we get our patients out of pain quicker, and they stay out of pain because we teach them how to live their life well.
Don't let yourself live in pain any longer. Get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today at ProgressiveMedicalCenter.com.
Progressive Medical. This is your life. Live it well.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.